So with the very last showcase I did, and I would say the very last summon video I did in 2024, one of the main requests I had was to do an updated tier list for 2025. And surprisingly, I will tell you all, I actually recorded this video like a week ago, but my audio got corrupted. This would have already been out, but you know, was a little bit demotivated to say the least. In terms of the ranking this time around, we have 4 rankings. The SS tier, of course, these are the best of the best units. You're not gonna see characters like Summer Finn in this tier and stuff. This is the GOATs, the ones that stand above all. S tier is like your really strong units. These guys are pretty much in the meta. They're not like meta defining characters, but definitely up there. A tier is pretty much, they're not as strong as the other characters, but still pretty good. And B tier is mainly going to be reserved for attackers for the most part, and maybe a few other units. I'm definitely going to value characters that do more for their team and have more team viability over others. Also, I will say too, there may not be too much editing in this video because I am going to talk about every single character I can pretty extensively. The man Ainz is still, I would say, insanely good. And if I had to put him anywhere, I'd probably put him S tier. You still got crazy arch gen, you still got pretty solid damage. You also have the crazy crit damage buff for dark allies. Really good still in mono dark demon, even though we don't have Summon Rosetta yet. Once you have Summon Rosetta, he'll probably fall off just a tiny bit, but I don't think he'll ever fall out of this S tier. The worst part about this guy is still the thing that I've been saying ever since he's came out, which is just his animations. His animations are way too slow. If he ever gets a buff to his animation speed, which I doubt they'll ever do that, he may get a lot better. But until they do that, he is just an S tier unit. Albedo is, I think last time I probably had Albedo in like A tier. I think I'm gonna move Albedo up to S tier. Albedo is like the only answer that Dark and Mono Dark Demon has for like massive amounts of damage mitigation. In Mono Dark Ruins, she's insanely strong because of that. In any content where you need to tank with a Mono Dark Demon team, you bring Albedo to it just so you have a chance of surviving against the onslaught that you're going to be facing. You slam down with that super art, the enemy can't even do anything because they're just completely in a daze by Albedo. So, I mean, yeah, crazy unit still, very, very strong. I would say she's probably going to fall off just a tiny bit if we get another really strong damage mitigation tank for Dark, but for right now, definitely S tier. Alpha, before this unit came out, I want to say very strong, possibly S tier, maybe, yeah, I would say she was an S tier character in my opinion, but after using this character in multiple different things, after seeing gameplay with her and different team comps, I feel like she's mainly A tier. Her passive is insane, I will say that. It's one of the strongest passives I've ever seen. Crit res down, the arch gen, all that's great for mono light, plus the physical damage is okay, but the problem is that she is a type E arch gener. That directly is going to conflict with other type E arch geners, the main one of course being Houka, and Houka is like the be all end all unit for right now. When it comes to Alpha, outside of mono light, she's getting very little use, not to mention she has to stack up that physical damage buff, which is just weird. I mean, I understand they want to do stuff different and they don't want to make everybody just super broken, but you compare that to, you know, another character like Houka. I don't want to compare every arch gener to Houka, but it's kind of like you have to compete with him outside of your mono team, and unfortunately you're just not winning that race. Arstilla Orbis, I'm going to be putting an S tier now. Before, I would put an A tier, and I may change this, and I may put her high A tier after all this, because the way that I have them ordered by the end of this tier list will matter. Yeah, we may change this up a little bit. For right now, I'm going to put her in S tier. Arstilla Orbis has a crazy amount of break res down. She's able to just help you deal so much break damage. Her arch gen is okay, it's type B. Also, her damage is whatever. This unit is mainly just there to help break, and breaking in certain content is so valuable. You combine this character with like Chloe, you combine this character with Chobei, Arthur, even like any of these units, you throw them on a team with Arstilla Orbis and bosses are getting broken left and right. So for right now, I'm gonna keep her at S tier, but I think she's bottom of S, possibly A tier. We'll have to see by the end of this video how I'm feeling. Arthur, still S tier, man. Godly character. Really good in Mono Dark. Really good in just any other team that needs to arch gen. She's a very unique arch gen type, which is type F. Pretty strong break damage still, even pretty okay damage. And yeah, I mean, she's not really falling off too much. I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't ever see her anymore, but she's still just as good as she was like back then. Our first character that is probably at the bottom of this tier list will be Combat 4 Milim. This unit is just such a... she's just all over the place. I think this character would be insane. You didn't lose all the stacks when using a different part of your kid. I wish that you only lost one stack because that wouldn't be as bad. It would still be bad, but not as bad. The fact that you just lock into using only one attack on this character is her biggest downfall. And even with the buffs that she got recently, since Tensura is coming back in JP, it's still not enough to really do anything for her. She's gonna hit hard if you ramp her up enough, but that's all she has going for her. One of our first characters that stand above all is Beta. Oh my lord, this character, man. I'm talking about, you got the Arch-Shin, the damage mitigation, the magic damage up. There's nothing that you can really complain about with this character. Not to mention, she's on one of the strongest teams in the game, which is Mono Water. She also can be utilized with literally any team in the game. On top of that, you could say, yeah, Shiro's better at times, or you could say this other character's better or whatever. You might just be wrong, depending on who you said, because Beta is the GOAT right now. I don't know if I would say better than Shiro. I'm a little bit 50-50 on that. Literally, they're like practically on the exact same level. Absolutely insane character. BF Emperor. And I've been seeing people say that he's top of SS. He's maybe an S tier unit. I've even seen some people say he's just A tier because he's not all that. I'm personally going to put this guy in S tier, and we'll probably rearrange the list. So he'll probably be top of S tier, maybe in the middle. BF Emperor has his very strong mechanic, which is of course the position mechanic, which directly allows him to reduce specific equipment CTs. Why is that good? That is good because it stacks with other characters' equipment CT buffs like Star God Liza, War God Fen. These universal equipment CT buffs can stack with a specific equipment CT buff to where one of those equips are going to be zooming. You may even half the time of a certain equip. And the fact that he can half support items, physical and magic, the big one there of course being support. If he could half defense items, Jesus Christ, he would be literally top of SS instantly because he has pretty good stuff with everything else. One of the worst parts about Emperor though is surprisingly his super art, which is super art is one of my favorite attacks in the entire game. And the reason why it's bad is because his true art only lasts for 10 seconds. Who thought that was a good idea? You're trying to say something, Yama P? 10 seconds. Let me calm down. Let me calm down. I'm sorry. If this was 15, 20 seconds even for that Arch-Shin, you could actually utilize his super art at times. But in most situations, you're going to be going in with that true art, then you're going to be going in with that art, and you're just going to kind of alternate between the two. You're never going to be using that super art. So yeah, also another thing about Emperor, he needs LB7. If you don't have LB7 on him, I feel like he's just significantly worse. BF Mira, I feel like this is a character that's A tier, man. The main issue I have, and I'll just say this, great character, worst part about her, the super crits apply at 50% or less HP. If it was just super crits whenever you use your super art, like it is War God Fen and stuff, very strong character for fire, but since it's not like that, she's okay at best. Chloe is top of S tier. Like I said, we'll rearrange this soon. The queen of breaking, right? Crazy break power up, really good break res down, good break values across the board, really solid Arch-Shin, fire res down, so has some synergy and mono fire. One of the best characters in the game, and I really hope all you guys that played during the Fate crossover selected this unit if you didn't have her, because she is a game changer, boys. Not to mention too, if you do break nukes, she gives your entire team 200 art gauge. There's not really a flaw with this character apart from she's type E Arch-Shin. Chobei, I feel like has fallen off significantly. Whenever he first came out, I feel like he was an S tier character. Now I feel like he's A tier, possibly B tier. His ramping break power is still good, and he does really good break damage once you kind of get it going, but man, his base values are so bad. As a damage dealer, he's still really strong too with that super art. He's gonna deal crazy amounts of deeps with that, and as long as you ramp him up in that regard, he's good. It's just other characters do a bit more than him now. Delta is another newcomer that we just got recently in Grand Summoners, and I would say this unit is possibly a B tier character, maybe at the bottom of A tier. The only reason why I say this is because this character does freaking dummy damage. Like, her deeps is off the freaking charts, but this character doesn't do some type of niche in the sense of she's not an accuracy based unit, or she doesn't like poison, she doesn't do disease, or something else that like gives her a bit more utility outside of just being, hey, I'm Delta, I deal crazy damage, and then that's it. These types of units usually always fall off quite fast because you see this and it's like, oh my god, she's crazy, and then literally the next crossover or the next unit release in GS, it's a unit that deals 600 billion damage, and you're like, oh my god, power creep. And then next thing you know, you got a lolly that's like apparently 3,000 years old, dealing freaking quintillion amounts of damage because, I don't know, they're trying to say something over there in Japan. Either way, Delta B tier character, possibly low A tier. Like I said, I'll probably change up the list a little bit depending on how I'm feeling. Demiurge, back in the day, I would say he's the worst unit in the game. I would put a whole nother tier for him. However, the release of Sunraku and Summer Iris, this unit is an A tier character now. Sunraku and Summer Iris makes this guy a competent cover tank. I don't want to call him a damage mitigation tank because he doesn't do damage mitigation, but cover tank. His barrier that he applies to the entire team, plus Sunraku and Summer Iris's damage mitigation passives, makes that freaking barrier so tanky, man. If this guy had a 5-star defense, oh my lord, the amount of damage mitigation you could have on that team would be insane. I've seen so many fights where people just use Demiurge with Sunraku and Summer Iris, and he's just tanking for days. That barrier is completely unfazed by whatever the boss is throwing at him. I love that. I love when a unit comes out and they're not that good on release, but then they release more support for like that attribute, so Mono Fire for an example, and it makes these characters that weren't that good on release just insane later on. Demon Lord Rimuru is definitely still S tier. He's the damage carry, right, for Mono Dark Demon. I'm gonna say this, a little bit of a spoiler, but in JP right now, there is a new Demon Lord Rimuru, which is Kimono Demon Lord Rimuru, or New Year's Rimuru. That Rimuru is still really strong, but I would put this guy over that Rimuru. This guy has super crits though. He has ramping damage for Mono Dark characters. He also has a stackable damage res, and yeah, he's still an S tier unit, man. That other Demon Lord Rimuru, gonna be crazy. Don't want to talk too much about him here because he's not out yet on global, but yeah, if you're wondering like, oh my god, this guy's gonna get complete power crab, absolutely not. You could use those two characters together, and not only just that, you could just only use this Rimuru. He's still really strong, does crazy deeps. I've been seeing a lot of people use this guy still in raids to nuke with him, and yeah, great character overall. Main issue I have is that he doesn't really provide any kind of support to the team apart from that damage buff. Everything else is just like hyper damage carry stuff, so I guess that's the biggest negative. But even with that being said, everything else he's providing is just such a positive. Diablo, I will say with his buff, whenever we get it, he'll be S tier. Of course, his biggest flaw is his HP restriction, but once we get Tensura on global this year, we will get that reduced, and if you use his true weapon on him, he's gonna have a 50% or more HP restriction compared to the 90% or more he has now, or 80% or more if you have his true weapon. It's gonna be huge for him. I highly recommend that if you guys have Diablo, whenever that buff comes out, use him. I guarantee you'll love him so much more. Demon Lord Vox on his own is like an A tier character, possibly even B tier. However, with him on Mono Dark Demon, he's S tier, and that's what I'm gonna rate him as. If he's on Mono Dark Demon, S tier character. He is the sole unit that kind of makes that team work insanely well. 60% stats up to the entire team is ridiculous. The heal slot and all that is wild. They have so much sustain thanks to this guy. He gives the team crit chance. He has really good passive arch gen. Personally think that he's borderline falling out of the meta. Like, he's very close to getting completely pushed out of Mono Dark Demon because we're getting so many other good Dark Demon characters in JP, and even in global we have quite a few already. I think that he's very close to getting completely knocked off the team if we get someone else that does something even remotely similar to Demon Lord Vox. Evil Eye, very good too. S tier character, really strong in the mono earth floors, literally makes them a cakewalk. Yeah, I guess the worst thing is that she's kind of meant to be on a mono earth magic team, and that still doesn't really exist to an extent, even in JP. So once that comes out, she'll probably be like even better, but she's still insanely good for the time being. Evil Pola, B tier character. She poisons, but that's kind of the only thing she has going for her. Like, her damage is a little bit subpar compared to these other attackers in this row. And yeah, if you need a poison, you can poison, but you could also just use equips. So yeah, Gabimaru is gonna be going in the B tier. I love this guy. He's got so much sauce, so much damage, very fast animations too. I think he's still insane. It's just he only deals deeps, right? Man just goes, grabs you, gives you a crazy bear hug, and just blows up on you. His damage is still really good though. I just think that, like I said, other characters have come out that are just overall better. Gamagori is, I would say, an A tier. I think most of the taunt tanks in the game right now are kind of in a bit of a rough state. Designation tanks are like all the fuss, and not to mention they're just usually better to run than a solo tank like this. He's still pretty strong. That barrier is really good. The damage mitigation he gets when near death is very strong. He has a really OP revive. He has the Gerald revive, if you guys didn't know. And yeah, I think that later on down the line, maybe we'll see a meta shift where taunt tanks come back pretty heavily. But for right now, man, I think damage mitigation tanks are just leagues ahead of any taunt tank in the game. Goddess Celia is damage incarnate. I will still stand by that, but that's all she does. She's a B tier character. Really cool mechanic with the kins. I like that, but yeah, she's just deeps. Halloween Charlotte, just DPS. She's not really all that, and I think now with Delta being out, Delta is just the better Charlotte, especially when you consider like the whole race thing too. Charlotte's still a human, Delta's a beast, so you're able to use Delta when it comes to any content that counters human gods and demons. Halloween Forte got significantly better thanks to another character coming out, and I'm gonna say she's an S tier unit now. Actually, I may put her at top of A tier. We'll have to see how I'm feeling by the end of this, but yeah, really good arch gen, good damage buffs, very strong in mono dark, especially alongside Shadow. Shadow loves this character. She definitely appreciates everything Shadow does for her. So I think she's just gonna get even stronger. The biggest flaw to this unit to me is mainly the race to decide to go with for the character. I understand that, like, yes, she's still a human, but she's dressed up in a costume. They could have said, oh, well, she's in a costume, so instead of her being a human, she's a spirit, and that would have been huge for her, especially for her passive. So if that happened, oh my god, it would have been insane for this unit. I think if they ever buff her, it might be possible. It might be possible for them to change the race on this character. I don't know. They've never done that before, but maybe they could. Maybe this could be the one time they do it, because I think that would help this character out immensely. Halloween Valerie did get a bit better, but I still think she's about a B tier character. I don't think she's that crazy. With betas releasing everything, still really good, but okay. Holy Knight Roy. Now this is one that I'm gonna have some trouble placing. This guy is like top of S tier, man. Borderline double S. I would put him up there, but he really is just his Phantom Bullet and his super art. But my god, that Phantom Bullet is so freaking strong. He just feels really strong whenever you use him. The art being able to ultimate freeze isn't going to come up all the time, but it will come up eventually, if I'm not mistaken. When Edrum gets awakened later on, his ultimate freeze is perfect for that fight. Also, the break power up is really good in mono water, especially mono water ruins, where you need to break a lot more often, and you're going to be using, of course, a mono water team. So the team can definitely make use of all that nonsense. The crazy heal too, with that second Phantom Bullet, you're like, oh crap, we're about to die. Pop that, instantly everybody gets full healed. Yeah, dude's a goat. Dude is really freaking strong. I wish I would have got him. Not gonna cap. I wish I would have got him. One of the strongest units I've seen release in the year of 2024. Talking about one of the strongest units we've seen in 2024, Houka. Oh my lord. Who designed this character, man? 300% crit damage as soon as you pop the super art, some of the highest art gen in the game. You got a 100% attack buff on the art, plus accuracy and crit res down on the true art, and not to mention you have some of the fastest animations in the game too. What the world, bro? There is no flaw to Houka. I guess the worst thing you can say is that his healing isn't that great. He has a skill that does a single target heal onto whoever has the lowest HP, and it's 3k. That's alright, but like, man, you don't even gotta worry about that because he's on mono water. Throw him on a team with Shiro. Now the team isn't taking any damage. You don't gotta worry about healing. And if you need more healing, he has the 2 support slots. You can use the new equip that came out from Shadow and Eminence that gives max HP up to anybody on the team if a water ally used it. Or you could use like Liza Smart Skirt to give stats up and heal the team. He really doesn't have any flaw, and depending on how strong your account already is with like equips and other units, it just makes this guy even better. Like, one of the strongest characters I've ever seen in GS history, easily the best unit in the game right now, and I can see possibly for the foreseeable future, because even in JP, no one has came out that even comes close to Houka. Illya, she's like, I would say she's A tier. If her slots are better, would be insane, but yeah, that's about it. The boy Jay is still S tier. I know Summer Miyu came out, but it don't matter, bro. It do not matter. This guy still hits insanely hard whenever you ramp him up with that super art. He still provides so much utility with that damage res down. Not to mention, if you make him 120 luck, he's one of the strongest luck units in the game. Ridiculous amounts of usability with this guy. Not to mention too, he just got even better because Holy Knight Roy came out, so his mono water team got even stronger. One of the best units in the game, man. I love this guy still. And if you're like, oh, Summer Miyu beat him or whatever, I would say she didn't even beat him. It's the fact that you could use them both together, so Jay just got stronger. I guess, yeah, Jay's not like the only one in the game that can do his mechanic anymore. Sure, that's competition for him, but they're both physical damage dealers. So like, you can use them together and they're gonna deal crazy amounts of deeps. Kirisame is gonna be with the other taunt tanks in A tier. He's still really strong. He's one of the only taunt tanks in the game that actually is able to cleanse damage res downs, and that right there is gonna be the biggest thing going for Kirisame in the future. He is slow, and at times I feel like it's really risky to play Kirisame. Even though he has so much DR in the kit, he just gets popped so easily, man. Like, there's times where he just dies and you're like, dude, how the heck did you die right there? Kokuri's the worst unit in the game, enough said. Long is, I would say, top of B tier, maybe A tier. I would say bottom of A tier, top of B tier. This character, he's able to disease. He has accuracy in the kit. He does really strong damage, not to mention he's also able to bleed the enemy. And he's used for quite a few bosses nowadays, which, you know, we're seeing more and more use for Long as time goes on. And I think he's just getting better. So yeah, I would say he's A tier for right now. I think he's a demon though, right? He's a demon. He should be a dragon. I don't know why they made him a demon. He definitely should be a dragon. Luana is B tier unless you're using like the one mono magic team, mono magic nuke, which is like Luana, Nonon, and like the other magic characters. Then she would probably be an A tier unit. But yeah, she's not that good. Valentine's Day Miranda is insane on paper because of the amount of physical res down she's able to apply. But the thing is that since she relies so heavily on status effects, she unfortunately gets countered by every single in-game boss because majority of them are resistant to any kind of status effect. It's good to have a status effect in the kit just to have it as an option, like Holy Knight Roy for an example has this, but being based completely around a status effect is really bad. We don't want that because that isn't good. We don't want another Natsu situation on our hands here. Rest in peace, Natsu. So yeah, Miranda's bomb B tier. Regular Miyu, I would say, is A tier. Possibly, no, I would say A tier. Well, actually, let me think. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna put her bottom of S tier. 200% damage up to all human allies, crazy amounts of arch damage she has passively, plus the ridiculous amounts of arch shin for like the first, 2 minutes of a quest. She also has the attack and accuracy buff as well, which is really good against any boss that has evasion, and yeah, still deals crazy amounts of deeps to anyone in her path. Not to mention buffs up some of the strongest characters in the game, like Psyger, Saitama, any human character, right? BF Emperor, like all these characters get buffed up by Miyu's 200% damage up. So yeah, love her, still insanely good. Momon, also a very strong character here, still ridiculous passive, crazy dark res down. He does really good damage himself and is literally one of the best units when it comes to Mono Dark and Mono Dark Demon. Like, there's not too many people that stand above him, and I wish I would have got him. He's one of the characters that I regret missing, man. I really do regret missing this unit. Gamma is also an S tier character still. Really strong nuke support, especially for Mono Demon. I wouldn't really use her too much in sustain. There's a few times where I've went to her in sustain, but it's very, very few. Nonon, I feel like, is one of the most underrated characters in this game, and I would say she's like top of B tier. The burst arch she gives to the entire team every single wave. It's like 25 or 50 arts if you are a light unit, or if you're a light and human character, of course you get 50. It's 25 to 50 arts depending on if you fulfill the conditions. If you're able to fulfill those conditions, the amount of arch you get just from this character on like a 3-stage quest is insane. 150 arts is wild considering that you don't even have to use like type 0 or anything. That's really strong, and I think eventually we're gonna get another character that doesn't have a conditional arch shin passive like this, and it's gonna be unconditional, at the start of each wave, everyone on the team gets like 100 arcade or like 50 arts. And whenever we see that, Jesus Christ, the power creep is going to be ridiculous. I know it's coming. I know eventually GS is going to do it. Some people may say they're not. I promise you, eventually GS will do this. Just a B tier character. She's good in some situations, but it's really hard to make her work, and even whenever you make her work, it doesn't feel worth it for the most part. Oikatzo is next, and Oikatzo is gonna be damage res down, magic res down. He also has a freeze and paralysis resist. I would say he's bottom of A tier. He might be borderline B. He's alright. Valentine Priscilla, easy S tier, man. Very strong unit here. One of the strongest characters in the game and one of the mainstays when it comes to mono fire. Physical damage buff, damage res up, crazy burst heal, cleanse, archin. What the heck, man? Character's freaking dumb. This is also another character that helps Demiurge with his barrier and stuff. Yeah, it's wild. If that team had defense slots, oh my god. The fact that that team doesn't have defense slots, and I guess it does if you run Kirisame, Jesus, bro, Jesus, the amount of DR. Psyger is A tier, possibly S tier. The main reason that I want to put her in S tier is just because she has the use of being a barrier mitigation type tank, I guess you would say, or a sub tank. I wouldn't call her a tank, but a sub tank, kind of similar to that of like Sistina from back in the day with that barrier and the archgen. Damage buff is really good on this character. The nuke potential on that super art is still ridiculous. Really one of the strongest nukes in the entire game. You pull out that super art, you slam it on the ground, you throw just all the damage buffs you can into this character, and anything in front of him is just Rin. Still very strong, has ridiculous ramping. People say this character got power crept by Summer Miyu. Summer Miyu only ramps up physical damage, and this character ramps up literally all damage. So I don't know. People are just talking just to talk. They're crazy. Really good damage res down that she's able to do. She can actually, in specifically raid nukes, be used alongside Demon Lord Rimuru to apply a massive amount of damage res down on the raid boss to deal, of course, a crazy amounts of damage with whoever you're nuking with, maybe a Psyger for an example. The magic damage buff is really good. Of course, this character has a magic res down, but I think that her magic res down shouldn't really be factored in a lot of the times because her animation is so freaking long that by the time it actually hits the boss, they're probably already dead if you're nuking with it. If you're not nuking with it and you're in sustain, then you're using a magic attacker, you definitely get some use out of it. But yeah, really good unit still, very strong. Also an archgener, surprisingly. She archgens on her skill, so that is a very unique archgen type, and it pretty much stacks with any other archgener in the game. And of course, it can only be used on mono fire, and yeah, mono fire loves whenever she's on the team. Salter, I would say, is about like a B tier character. I want to say she's somewhere in here. I'll rearrange this later, but she just deals damage. She's just a huge stat stick. She does big bonks, and that's about it. But who doesn't like that, right? Bonking is very fun. You know what I mean? Very fun. Yeah, I would say Sagiri's still S tier, but I think Evil Eye really beat this character, like, pretty bad. I think the only thing this character has over Evil Eye is the fact that it has the massive Earth Res down, and now there's another character in the game that she has to compete with again, which is Summer Luvia Rin that also does the Earth Res down. She's able to apply a break power up, which is very, very strong in certain situations. So yeah, I would say Sagiri's bottom of S tier now. Still really good, but definitely is facing some very tough competition. Demon Edge Warwick I've always loved, but he's just an A tier character. I think he has a lot going for him though. It's just he's so slow. The amount of archgen you need for this character to get going is insane. If he is the main focus of the team, he's gonna look insane. But if you're just throwing him on the team, just throw him on there, he's gonna be like, why is he even here? Senki, one of the best characters in the game. Still S tier, my god. The only light unit that is ascended, let me say, that actually gives DR. The only light character, apart from, of course, Gamma, but she just gives flat DR. No like physical DR, no magic DR, flat DR on her true art. I don't understand why we don't have a damage mitigation tank for light to kind of help them, because I feel like this is the biggest issue with Monolight right now. One of the only reasons why Monolight isn't one of the top teams in the game is just because they don't have like a beta, or they don't have someone, for example, like Demiurge, which is crazy to say. They don't have anybody that's just able to protect the team with a barrier or a taunt or something else. I really hope in 2025 we get a new character that is able to actually just tank ridiculous ridiculous amounts of damage for Monolight, because that is the biggest issue with them. Monolight's one of my favorite teams in the game, and the fact that they're not getting a lot of support in the Ascendant era is a little bit sad. I mean, they've had good releases, right? Like BF Emperor, we're about to talk about God Liza, of course, and, you know, Gamma's still pretty strong. They've had some great releases. There's nobody to really help synergize on that Monolight team, which is definitely the team that's struggling a bit right now. Talking about Monolight, though, God Liza, literally double S tier. Not an S tier character, double S tier. Her equipment CT buff is insane. Aether recast is one of the most broken mechanics in this game. The magic damage buff on that super art is wild. And also the skill art shinning is insane too. It's a very unique art shin type. Burst art shin for herself plus overtime art shin for the entire team. Great stuff here. Love God Liza, one of the strongest characters in the game. If she's ever on a banner and you do not have her, you should instantly summon for her. Another character. Oh my god, dude. We're about to just have banger after banger after banger. Shadow. Freaking what is this unit, bro? This unit works perfectly with Holy Knight Roy over here. He works perfectly with every physical damage dealer in the game. Any character that replies a physical res down, he's insane with. The man's just dummy good, dude. Like, oh my lord. Not to mention too, he counters evasion bosses because he lowers their evasion rate. He has the I am atomic attack on that super art and does crazy deeps, buffs up the damage, gives everybody defense ignore. Love him. This guy is one of the best units I've used in 2024, and he just feels so good to use, man. If you have him on a team with other art shinners and stuff, plus, you know, he's given like 30 arts every time you use that true art, it's so good. Not to mention his true art is so fast, bro. You pop that true art instantly, boom, they got physical res down, and the evasion rate down. And then within the next second, his true art's over. Then you can go right back into it over and over and over again. I love him. Dub release, GS. Dub release from Shadow and Imminence. Shultz here is, I would say, a B tier character still. Really good damage. Main issue, I guess, is just she doesn't have super crits. If she had super crits, definitely would be one of the strongest attackers in the game, but still really good when it comes to Monolight. Shiro, another double S tier character. You know what? Let's put all the water units together. Yeah, character is just dumb. I would say it probably, in my opinion, goes like this right now. Just because Shiro does have a bigger barrier. He doesn't, I would say his damage probably isn't as good as someone like Beta, but bigger barrier, defense slot as well. Very good support. Unlimited blade work, stage transition, passive, domain, whatever you want to call it, is insane. It's able to stack with pretty much every single DR buff in the game that's supplied by any of the units. And yeah, you throw this guy on a team, you put up his barrier, you don't have to worry about healing because healing's not an issue anymore. Why do you need a heal if you're never going to get hit anyway? I love how they did Shiro, and I am so freaking excited to see what happens in the future, because I feel like if we get another Shiro counterpart, my god, I don't see how this game's gonna catch up, bro. They nailed this guy though. This is a W release. Bazette, you know what? I feel like Bazette's like S tier, bro. Like maybe you would say top of A tier, but like, damn, she does a lot. Like the countering mechanic is good, right? Like it's definitely something that you should consider, but the accuracy she gives to herself, she's able to counter any evasion boss in the game, which I highly value that. She has defense ignore, she doesn't rely on crit. Also, she has the unique mechanic where she's able to keep any defense item that you want pretty much 100% uptime for the entire quest. Not to mention she's on a team with like Star God or somebody or someone else that's applying an equipment CT buff. Oh yeah, this whatever defense item is on her will be up 24/7. And I think that's her main thing. That's the thing that like really keeps her above everything. So I'm gonna say that's an easy S tier personally. Summer Chloe, I would say, is also S tier. She's really good. The main issue with Summer Chloe is mainly she has to compete with Houka outside of Monolight. Inside of Monolight, she's very strong. Summer Finn, his buff that he gets later on is insane because it gives him 200% water res down. But for right now, he's all right. He's B tier. Summer Illya is one of the best characters when it comes to magic teams. The constant ramping of magic res down is wild. The art gauge she gives to herself, really good stuff. The true art is actually insanely good too. I use this true art specifically for Yugetsu on Summoner's Road Stage 4, Fire Summoner's Road Stage 4, and it works phenomenally because I don't have 12th generation Mizuki, and then of course you can't use like Demon Lord, and then of course you can't use Rimuru because they have Demon Killer, but yeah, she works really good in that situation too, so that's another thing that's very good about this character. But yeah, S tier unit. Summer Iris, one of the best fire units in the game, easily at the top over here, and yeah, if you have these two units, Summer Iris and Valentine Priscilla, and the later character we're going to be talking about, which of course is Sunraku, use them on a team and you are going to see ridiculous work. from the Archgen to the damage mitigation to the deeps. Oh my lord. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I think Summer Iris just recently got a buff on JP as well that made her even stronger. Summer Luvia Rin is the nuke meta. You know what? I want to make a new tier and I just want to put nuke meta because this character defines the nuke meta. 200 arcage to the entire team when near death. You use one of the mind's equips to Divine Arachnid's. You want to use the 5-star one, Divine Arachnid's Tears. This instantly gets you to near death. You could use like Blessed Necklace on her too to make sure she doesn't die. And you pop that, boom, everybody on the team gets 200 arcage. You don't even gotta worry about using type 0 anymore. Everyone else on this team probably just needs like an equip that gives them arcage, or you could run 2 type 0s on someone else if you want to, I guess. Everybody's at super arts, just like that. Summer Miyu, everybody saw this coming, but she's an S tier unit too. The main thing that makes this character so good is the ramping physical damage on that Chu art. Every single wave, you get a free 80% damage buff that stacks with itself, and you're just giving it to the entire team. Any physical damage dealing on the team is wild. Another thing that's really cool and is actually insane is that she is really strong alongside Holy Knight Roy. And you could actually run a mono water team with Houka, Shiro, Holy Knight Roy. And then instead of it being just mono water, you throw Miyu in there, and then now you have crazy ramping damage on top of a physical res down. This is a character that I think is like so-so to an extent. Yeah, I would say Sakura is unfortunately like a B, A tier. Yeah, I think if you say she's S tier, you're coping heavily. She's a unit that kind of relies on stats effects too. You want to blind the enemy. Blind is pretty good because we do need it in certain fights. The dark res down is really good too, but it takes a minute to come out if I'm not mistaken. It's not like super fast. The leader damage buff she has is pretty strong, and the magic damage buff she has on her True Art is also really good, and even like the magic res she has as well. All that stuff's good. It's just, yeah, she just doesn't feel strong whenever you use her. Later on, she may get a bit better, but yeah, she's just about A tier. Sunraku, S tier character, bro. He's up here with the other fire units, man. Godly character, bro. Love him so much. Archgen, crazy amounts of super arts. He's literally the War God Fen for fire. He is so freaking good. The worst part about him, I guess, is that he's all about debuffing and not about buffing, which isn't that bad. But the problem is that if you're playing in a fight where you're transitioning in stages, those debuffs don't carry with you, of course, with each stage transitions. Uzu. Now, I know he's an attacker. You think I'd put him in B tier, but nah, bro. No, listen. There's something about this man. I don't know what it is. And if he's bugged, let's not say anything to the devs, bro. You put this guy on a team and he just melts bosses. I don't know what it is. You can use him to counter Ugetsu. Like Fire Summoner Rose Stage 4, Ugetsu that has like crazy amounts of DR, and usually you have to break them at least once or twice. Uzu says, nah, you don't gotta worry about break. You throw me on a team, you put War God Fen with me, we got you. I'm talking about he pulls that freaking stick out. Another character that's really good, War God Fen. He's the SS tier character still. War God Fen is still one of the strongest characters in the game, and he was the first ascended unit. I love this. OG Fen in the Awoken era stayed relevant for so long. Hell, even now, if you're a brand new player and you need another Archgener, I would still recommend you to get OG Fen because he's just that good still. Literally, War God Fen is doing the exact same thing in the Ascendant era. He's still standing the test of time. We've had literally 60 other characters come out in the Ascended era, and he's still considered one of the strongest units in the entire game. Yusu is also just really strong still. Physical res down debuff is very potent. Archgen as well, really strong on dark teams, really strong on any team that just wants that physical res down. Really good in raid nukes as well. Just massive physical res down instantly. Slots are fantastic. Now, this is the list, but I am going to rearrange it real quick, and we are going to order them how they would actually be. So, yeah, let me do that real quick. This is the completed list. I don't know how long the final video of this is going to be. It is an hour of recording, so I talked about each unit as much as I could. I'll do my best to try to timestamp this so you guys can skip to whatever unit I'm talking about, because I know some of you guys definitely don't want to watch an hour of me just rambling about every single unit in this game. That is my updated tier list for 2025 right there. We'll have to see how well this goes. I'll have to see if this stands the test of time. You know, in a year's time, I may have completely different opinions on each of these characters, but yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Either way, though, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you all for hanging out. It's been your boy P, and last but not least, you guys already know, don't forget to drink water.